Alrighty. These are pretty cool. Hey there YouTube, Goon here, coming at you guys again with another video, a shoe review specifically, going over a pretty pertinent shoe right now, the Asics x Vivienne Westwood Gel Kayano 27 LTX. Say that 3 times fast. That came out on March 20th. Now while I love doing shoe reviews and I love making content about something so pertinent right now, I have a lot of other stuff that I want to review, things like this hat, things like this hoodie, to be honest, that I got back during the holidays, or even things like this right here, which I think are pretty pertinent right now. But these shoes just seem appropriate, and I've been able to wear them since I bought them pretty frequently, so I figure that I might as well make a review on them now that I have a bit more of a formulated opinion about them. And shoes tend to be a little bit more hot, a little bit more volatile when it comes to the market. They tend to sell out a bit quicker, so I figured, hey, why not do something on these shoes that I think you could still buy at a few retailers. Like I just mentioned, these are a collaboration between Asics and Vivienne Westwood, and they have done multiple collaborations in the past. I'll have some photos on screen here. Asics and Vivienne always managed to be able to pull in Vivienne's ethos, some previous design inspiration or just flat out designs onto Asics models, and I find that they're all pretty interesting, but the Gel Kayano 27 LTX just really leapt out to me, mainly because it ties this interesting thread between something being very technical, but then also having that slightly avant-garde twist, but the latex itself being something that harkens towards Vivienne's history as a designer. Now, if you're not familiar with Vivienne Westwood, she's been designing since 1970, like the name implies right there, but she really got her big break being able to do designs for the Sex Pistols in the UK, and she co-owned a store called Sex at the time. They were making a lot of stuff that was very countercultural at the time. It had a lot of angst behind it, very centered around the fact that they were living in a very constrictive environment at the time, and her work transcended that era, and she's still doing design work to this very day, all stuff that is very much within her worldview, similar to how some other designers tend to design nowadays, and I really, really respect it. I know a lot of people within the archive scene also fawn over her pieces, and while I have a respect for her work, it's not necessarily something that's always up my alley, but these just leapt out to me for a lot of reasons that I'll be getting into right now. First things first, I want to talk about the box, because you always got to. It's pretty simple. It's just a cardboard Asics box with Vivienne Westwood branding right here in the middle. And then the only other little bit of detailing is the fact that there's some Japanese labeling right here on the bottom of the box. It says that this is recyclable and made of recyclable materials. And then you've got your size tagging right here on this side. These are a size US 9 for me. They are a unisex shoe, so they came out in a huge plethora of models, but that's how it worked for me. Gel Kayano 27 LTX in the black on black colorway. And then there's also an Asics logo up here and a Vivienne Westwood logo right here. Just something to keep in mind, but yeah, pretty standard box by box's sake. The first thing that your eye goes to when it comes to these shoes is this latex upper. And the latex, as a matter of fact, is actually a reference towards Vivienne's very beginnings when it came to her work, which was making latex stockings. As someone who's not super familiar with her designs, I think it's very interesting that they were able to recontextualize something so seminal from her collections onto something that looks very technical, because latex is waterproof and shoes, well, they like to be waterproof, and I think it's a really weird way in which they were able to kind of intertwine two technologies, but then also just like a design choice, which is interesting to say the least. Again, like I mentioned, the entire upper is latex with specific details like seam taping around the middle forefront of the toe, with small little black details that go over the tippy toes, just to give a little bit of visual interest. On top of that, there are also some black patches that go over certain parts of the forefoot, the side of the foot, etc. And those patches also have little holes in them which give the latex ventilation. One big question about these shoes is, hey, these are a completely latex upper. How do these things breathe? Well, when I talk about the actual function of those shoes, I'll be getting into it then. Inside this latex upper, however, there's also a neoprene sock, which is what is going to be mainly around your foot. Very, very comfortable. And I think the really unique detail is the fact that the sock itself actually has the classic Asics branding across the side of the foot. So you're still getting that hint of Asics in there outside of the small hits here and there on the latex, just in this really subtle way. And it kind of reminded me of the Gelbers one that Kiko did with Asics, and the way in which the latex actually went over the logo in that respect. But that wasn't latex, that was rubber. You know what I mean. On the back of the shoe towards the heel, you actually have the main bit of branding on this, which is the fact that it's a Vivienne Westwood x Asics collaboration with the Gel Kayano 27 LTX model. They make it very clear right there on the heel, along with the fact that Vivienne's been designing since 1970, like we iterated on earlier. But then also around this heel, you'll see a little bit of bulging where the actual heel cage for the shoe is, to give that extra bit of support, as these are based off of a running pair of shoes. So they do have elements of actual support, which when walking out and about is actually very comfortable. Again, something I'll be getting into. The Gel Kayano 27 is a very recent model of shoe from Asics, and this entire midsole is utilizing their flight foam, which is something that they are very well known for. It's a very comfortable sole, light, but also very rigid, and the actual midsole itself does this really good job of being able to blend black, but then also the kind of grayish black that this upper has as well. The colors on this shoe are ineffable in that respect. It just does this really good job of being able to blend gray, black, a little bit of white, everything in between. It was something that allured me to the shoe in the first place. It almost has like an olive-like tinge as well, a military khaki tinge to it too, which I think is just awesome. On the inside of the midsole, it says that this is the Dynamic Duo Max sole. Really comfortable, can just say that from personal experience. And then, like I was mentioning earlier, big meaty tread, good for urban environments, actually running, or just doing anything that you might like. It's just a very versatile shoe in that respect, and especially with the sort of interesting design that you've got going on up here, it can work in a more technical scenario if you want it to. It can work in a more fashionable scenario. The world is your oyster in that respect. So talking about the midsole, talking about the tread and all those other details, you can't really talk about any of those without talking about the overall comfortability of the shoe, which I would say is very nice. I got these as a size 9 in my Gel Kayano 14 UB1Ss. Jesus Christ, they're all such crazy names. I got these in a size 9.5 because I had a pair of Asics that I had ran in beforehand. I thought that a 9 was a little bit tight, so I went up to a 9.5 and these are crazy comfortable. I got these in a 9 because I was scared that they were gonna sell out, and that was one of the only sizes available on the retailer that I used. And I can easily say that these still feel very, very comfortable. What's actually a really interesting detail about the Gel Kayano 27 is that the silhouette overall is slightly wider than some of the previous running models. It has a slightly wider silhouette, and while it is still pretty cozy, still pretty emulative of a normal running shoe, being something that's pretty tight and form-fitting, it's still comfortable, and after wearing these for a full 8.5-hour work shift, I was still very, very comfortable in these. So something to keep in mind. The thing that I love about these versus these is that the actual flight foam that the 27 model uses is very light, and you're still not losing any composition when it comes to the actual comfortability of the shoes like you would get out of the 14s here, being this really fluffy gel sole. It's still here, it's just a little bit lighter. And that's kind of to be expected, being that this is a newer shoe. So let's talk about some pros and cons of the shoe outside of its overall comfortability. The first pro that I want to talk about is the fact that, well, these shoes are pretty much waterproof, and that's because of this latex upper. Outside of the couple of ventilation holes that the shoe has, you can pretty much dump water on these and your feet will stay dry. And that's a pretty interesting detail on a shoe. I didn't really go into them thinking that, even though it was sort of at the back of my head. I just thought that the upper looked cool, and then when I was thinking about it, I was like, oh wow, these actually would probably be waterproof, and after pouring a couple of water bottles on these, I could say, yeah, these do a pretty good job holding up to water. At the very same time, I have not gone out in these in rain quite yet, so I can't really speak as to how it would work in that scenario at least. You might have a little bit of an issue up here around the opening of the shoe, given that it's not super airtight to the actual sock, but if you're wearing actual pair of long pants that puddle on top of the shoe, you should be fine. I think that this strikes a nice happy medium between very waterproof and, you know, a little bit more casual. Another pro of the shoe is how easy it is to get these on, being that this is a sock liner with a latex upper. All of it's pretty stretchy, so you just kind of push your foot into it, pull with the little heel tab right here over the back of your heel, and you are in. it's pretty comfortable in that respect. It took a little bit of getting used to at first because I felt like I might rip it or something similar, but these are very hardy and it is a slip-on shoe for the most part. So really easy to get in and out in that respect. And once you get the hang of it, even easier. I think the final pro, and it's just something kind of personal, is the fact that these just look so good in this black colorway. That's so, it's kind of selfish to say, but it's true. The way that the shoe interacts with black, gray, this olive, like I was mentioning earlier, it's just such a nice looking shoe. If you have a more technical wardrobe, if you have something a little bit more casual, all the while, the way in which this interacts with black and gray is just ineffable. They really did a good job at knocking it out of the ballpark when it came to the colorway of this shoe. And the other two colors aren't that bad either. They're not necessarily my cup of tea. I probably would be able to rock the orange ones, but this is still just the best colorway of the bunch for me, and I love it for that reason. It was the main reason I actually wanted to get these in the first place. The just overall design of these just looked so tasty. All right, some cons. And I think the first con is gonna be the most glaring one. This upper is latex. It might have a little bit of breathability, but it does not breathe that well. Asics attempted to make this shoe be able to breathe with a couple of ventilation holes that are throughout the shoe, but you've got a neoprene sock and then you've got a full latex upper. Like I mentioned, I was able to walk around for an 8.5-hour work day in these shoes, and while they were very comfortable and I didn't really notice anything until I got home, the moment that I pulled my foot out of the shoe, this entire neoprene sock was just wet. It was pretty damp. And then the other thing is that because there are little nooks and crannies where the neoprene sock isn't directly up against this latex all throughout the shoe, certain pockets of the shoe will hold on to that condensation and it won't be able to dry out. And you will be able to see the fact that your foot is sweaty inside this shoe. Specifically around here in the heel cage, as well as sort of up here towards the tippy toes of the shoe, you'll get little sponges of wetness that will just stick there, and it has a really difficult time drying out. I let these shoes just air out over the course of a night and there was still wet spots afterwards. The only way that I'm able to actually dry these shoes out is leaving them outside to dry, and thankfully it's warm to be able to let me do that. You can hear planes and everything. But that is actually one of the biggest qualms of these shoes. If you are somebody who gets nervous about that sweaty kind of look, or if you don't really think that that would, I don't know, if you think that that would gross you out, then that's something to be mindful of. I think the only other con that I can think of, and it's kind of a fluke, it might not necessarily be on all shoes, but it was something that I noticed, is the fact that this little bit of stitching where the heel pole is sewn in is a little bit abrasive up against the back of your heel. And I myself like wearing lower socks, not no-shows necessarily, sometimes no-shows, but lower socks in general. And if the bit of this heel pole is rubbing up against your Achilles, you will feel it. I had a whole day, again, working in these shoes, and I felt it pretty quickly. So that is my review on the shoes, just a couple of ways in which I might like to style it. For this first outfit, this is something that has summer in mind. While I find that these shoes have that latex quality to them, so they're not necessarily the best for warmer weather, I still think that they're pretty wearable in a wide variety of scenarios. So this outfit overall is a little bit wider, a little bit boxier, just gooder for the summerer. Gooder, my guy, Jesus. On top, I've got a pair of black Oakley eye jacket Reduxes. I just picked these up at my outlet. I've been listening to a lot of drum and bass and jungle and breakbeat, and these immediately remind me of that mid-late 90s era of UK dance music. I thought that that was pretty nice. I have this Universal Soldier vintage tee that is honestly the perfect fit of any vintage tee. If anybody has a 25 by 25 t-shirt they want to sell me, please do. This is exactly how I want all my vintage tees to fit, and the fade, everything perfect, but honestly, anything in this silhouette is mwah to me. I'm wearing the acronym SP28DSs as the shorts. Gonna make a video on these, trust me, I feel it's an obligation. And then I've got the shoes on the bottom. I'm also toting the Synthesis bag, which is another thing that I'd like to make a review on. This is just a fun, kind of playful outfit that I think has that sort of retro tinge to it. Obviously, I'm not thinking to myself, oh man, retro tinge, that kind of thing, but it just coalesces all these things that I like personally into one outfit. It's nice, it's wide, It's good for this warmer weather. We're starting to get into the 70s here in California, so this is finally feeling appropriate to wear. And the bag just keeps all those extra little bits and bobs on me. It's just nice from top to bottom, and I think that it interacts well with the shoes. It packages one whole idea when it comes to an aesthetic altogether. So that's the first outfit. For the second outfit, we're kind of doing the more layered up brother to the first outfit. I apologize if this feels like a cop-out, but I just wanted to do something where I actually show off the shoes with something, you know, laying on top of them, a full length pair of pants, if you will. On top, I've got the Mikita sunglasses. I've got my Sillage jacket, another video that I would like to make a review on. I want to do a brand showcase on this brand. I've got a Uniqlo Aerism tank. I've got the Synthesis bag. I've got my Fumito Ganryu pants, the silver ones, and then I've got the shoes on the bottom. I like the fit and feel of this overall because I think that it has this sort of effervescent quality to it. Again, this is something that I don't think leans too hard into a very technical wardrobe like these shoes might imply. I think that these shoes actually have a lot of breadth and brevity to them, given the fact that they are from Vivienne Westwood, and because I think latex in general is not something innately technical. So I think that this does a good job at being able to work with a pair of pants like this. And at the very same time, because of the toe detailing that is on the upper of these shoes, the shoe still has a little bit of weight to it. Even though it's being piled on top of, the little bit of toe detailing makes sure to say, hey, I'm still here, you can see my toes, and I like it for that reason. A really cool outfit. Also, again, something that works better for warmer weather, given that everything is light and flowy and baggy. But yeah, just something that I would throw together, a fun little fit. I think this is something that works well overall, but this just shows two sides of a coin, I suppose, when it comes to outfits that would work with these shoes. So yeah. So that is my hopefully brief review of this most recent Asics and Vivienne Westwood collaboration. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm excited to see how these shoes work with my wardrobe as time goes on, as things shift and change. What do you guys think about the shoes? Is this something that you might pick up? I know that it might be polarizing having this latex upper, as you can see here, but I'm actually excited about it. And as we move into wetter weather, I know that it will be useful, and in this warmer weather, who knows? Let me know down in the comment section what you think. Like, subscribe as always, the typical YouTube stuff. I make videos whenever I can, my G. I just try to do it as often as I can, but I love interacting with you guys as always, and thank you so much for the way that the channel is growing right now. I'm very surprised that it's growing, period. But I appreciate the content, and I appreciate you guys interacting with me. So, as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you around, okay?